It's my pleasure to bring up the first team, 2012 Crummer alum Adam Schwartz with Freedom Audio.
I'm Adam from Freedom Audio. And over the past few years, my team and I have made it our goal to take music where it's never gone before. In that time, companies I founded have sold over 110,000 speakers. Freedom Audio's first speaker, named All-Terrain Sound, is a rugged, weatherproof, wearable speaker geared towards the outdoor market. After thousands of sales, it was featured as one of the best holiday gifts by Rolling Stone magazine. Outdoor enthusiasts love it because it's a speaker they could take with them almost anywhere. Almost. But the problem is that portable speakers can really only go where smartphones can, since they all rely on Bluetooth. This means there's not a great solution for outdoor water sport enthusiasts, particularly ones that spend a lot of time on the water. Kayakers, paddleboarders, surfers, fishermen, beachgoers. They love music, but they don't want to risk ruining their phones. And the speaker market has been moving more and more towards outdoor use, durability, ruggedness, and waterproofing. But really, isn't your speaker only as waterproof as your phone is? Until now. What GoPro did for cameras, we aim to do for speakers. Create a new market by bringing media where it's never gone before. So let me introduce you to Drifter, the world's first smart speaker. This is the only speaker that can play music completely independent from your phone, so you're free to take it anywhere. With Drifter's internal operating system, you can download songs from your favorite music apps, like Spotify and Beats Music, and play them on the go. You no longer have to risk your phone in unpredictable conditions in order to listen to music. And Drifter's been designed to be the last speaker you'll ever want. When you're at home, it uses Wi-Fi, like more expensive home music systems. When you're on the go, it uses Bluetooth, like any portable speaker. But when you're on an adventure, Drifter's own internal operating system frees you from relying on your phone. With Drifter's large internal storage and easy-to-use touchscreen interface, you can access all the music you want, the way you've come to expect it, but without risking your phone to do it. And of course, Drifter delivers best-in-class sound and performance. It's tough and withstands all conditions. And if it falls in water, it's completely waterproof and designed to float. It's small, has clips on both sides, and works with all GoPro mounts. And as you can see here, it has a ton more features than that. And we're looking to do our first run, a small run, in May of this year. So our strategy begins with targeting the U.S. water sports market with over 50 million active people. There just isn't a speaker that works with their lifestyle. But our vision's bigger. We aim to target a large portion of the Bluetooth portable speaker segment, which is expected to grow to $7 billion in the next 5 years. We're taking a page right out of our team's playbook from prior companies' experience and from All-Terrain Sound, our original speaker experience, when it comes direct-to-consumer strategies, wholesale strategies, and direct retail strategies. We're taking our existing playbook and we're putting it on steroids. So we've sold our current product, All-Terrain Sound, through numerous e-commerce channels and maintain relationships with buyers. Our track record speaks for itself. And we're really happy to say that All-Terrain Sound is going to be in Walmart stores in the US for Christmas this season. So to jump ahead to Drifter, our new product, our BOM cost, our bill of materials is roughly $45. Our landed cost is roughly $55. Our wholesale ranges from $100 to $120, and our retail is comparable to the better known but less featured guys out there on the market, Jawbone, Bose, and Beats. So right here are what our projections are for the next 6 quarters. Happy to talk further about any specific numbers. We see a great Christmas this coming season and an even better Christmas in 2016. With any capital that we win today, our biggest investment is going to go to increasing the speed at which we're doing our software development so we can continue to enhance new features. Right behind that, we see increasing our sales channels and spend. Right behind that, we see worrying about our inventory, because that's an important cost, as well as several partnerships that we have that we look to invest further in, as well as build out more partnerships. We have a really experienced team that's really knowledgeable in this industry. Ben, our creative director, 2 master's degrees, finishing his PhD equivalent in entrepreneurial digital cinema. He knows branding, he knows storytelling, this is what he does. Veronica, operations, she does our PR, she does our social media and works hand in hand with Ben. Jayesh has over a decade of experience in programming, has done what we've done before when it comes to operating system customization, and he's the best guy to lead our project. Faye is our boots on the ground in China on our team, electrical background engineering, and understands manufacturing and has been doing it for the better part of a decade. Rob has created a consumer electronics business that did 6 figures of revenue. Prior to that was a 9-year U.S. Army veteran and also a sergeant in field artillery. Myself, I was Rollins undergrad, MBA, adjunct professor of international business, co-founded a company that raised venture capital, as well as co-founded a successful speaker business in the past. So what's going to differentiate us from our competitors? What's going to give us that edge? First off, basically the IP, the trademarks, the utility patent, the design patents. One step further is we have an existing customer base we're going to leverage on day one of our previous product. We've established sales channels that, again, on day one, we can be leveraging to get sales out the door, get awareness about our product. And we've been working on this engineering, prototyping, programming, and tooling for months. One step past that is that RGA is one of the best-known marketing branding agencies in the world. They're an investor of us 6 figures. They work with, as you can see, major brands, and so they're a resource that gives us constant support as well as help build our infrastructure for our brand. So they're going to help us in the long term. We have strategic partnerships with Vodafone and Verizon, and we're in Verizon's innovation program, all which will help with future versions of our product. We also went through Techstars' 3-month accelerator. So that accelerator gave us a lot of benefits. It was New York City's Techstar Accelerator, one of the most prominent ones that's partnered with RGA. Our board of advisors, Verizon Ventures, the head of global innovation for Vodafone, RGA's innovation marketing director, the CMO of E-Trade, and the head of technology for BU. A wide range of people with a lot of skill sets and knowledge. Also, what came with it is big box retail connections. Big box retail is realizing they need to work with innovators like us. And so they are partnered with Techstars, and one of the benefits of that is that we got great high-level introductions that we're planning to do a 1-store pilot to start off with Target this summer. We're meeting in May with Best Buy to hopefully finalize a 300 to 400 deal, store deal that will roll out for Christmas this season. And Metro Group is launching with RGA and Techstars their own Kickstarter. And they want to use us as a sample. Metro Group is the Best Buy of Europe with over 1,000 stores. We're looking at launching with them in 4 countries for Christmas. So again, what's different about us and our competitors? The people who are most likely to want to copy us are the least likely to have the skill sets to do what we do. We're looking at ourselves, we're software wrapped in plastic. They're just plastic. So to jump into a matrix of our competitors, Outdoor Tech, one of the better known companies in our industry targeting our exact customer base, water sports enthusiasts. Their product's water resistant, it's not waterproof, it's not durable, it only works through Bluetooth. So they're the guy who's taking the market share right now, and they don't even have a product that fits the market. EcoX Gear, a little bit better, it's waterproof, it floats, but again, it requires you to have your phone right there. So it defeats the purpose while you're out on the water. Jawbone, obviously we know Jawbone. They clearly can't go near the water because it's not waterproof. And the last company is a Kickstarter campaign. They're going to be behind their date. We know the founders of it. It's a tablet with speakers on it, and it's built for the home, so it's not even a competitor to us. To talk about how we made sure we've got a good market that we're targeting. We went right into the Techstars program and worked directly with RGA's team, analyzing the market to understand our customer base. Past that, we surveyed over 150 water sports enthusiasts, and the feedback we got was great. It was the only time people make shift a way to bring out their phones on the water. The biggest reason, what people want and why they would think about bringing their phone, is music. The second biggest is a camera. We built a camera into our speakers because we learned that from those potential customers. We then surveyed our existing customer base and said, what can we do to build the best speaker out there? And they told us, we don't want one more speaker, we want one speaker that does it all. That's why we did Wi-Fi at home, Bluetooth on the go, and internal operating system when you're on an adventure. We already are working with e-commerce buyers, we're already talking to big box retail, and we're seeing a great appetite from buyers. So again, that's more validation, as well as us continually testing out our website, which already has traffic coming in, what resonates with people. So every day we go on, we're getting smarter. So to summarize, we have a great product with a team that's experienced in a wide open market of 50 million plus people, with strategic partners that are going to help us grow, with the infrastructure for a great brand and a company to help us, and a strategy to execute. Thank you all very much.
Adam, nice job. Tell me a little bit about the money you need, how much money you've spent to date, and how much money you have to spend to get your product through that first launch you're talking about in May.
So right now, we originally planned to raise $500,000 pre-launch. We're comfortable with capital right now, we're cash flow positive, and we see ourselves getting out to the market, because in the long term, we may need capital once we prove the market and competitors start entering to get into that battle. The big thing is we don't need capital right now, so we're getting past May to prove the market, get sales out, because we know we already have channels that'll move several thousand, at which point we're going to reconvene and look to raise capital in late Q4 or Q1 or 2 of next year.
Okay, thanks.
Hey Adam, great presentation by the way. Just a question for you on the distribution strategy. You mentioned a couple of big box retailers that seem to be potentially could be very tough customers, right? So what's the strategy behind going retail, big box retail versus potentially direct to consumer where you have kind of a very specific type of customer you're going after?
It's a great question. So we went, and when Techstars introduced us to the innovation teams at these big box retailers, we came out transparently and said, this may not be the best strategy for us. This is going to be extremely cash intensive to work with them. And Metro Group has already said they'll pay up front to get the product, because they know launching in Europe, as long as we protect them as the big European big box, they'll pay up front for the product. So there are some benefits that we saw. Our lowest hanging fruit is the direct to the consumer and the e-commerce relationships we already have. This is something that, depending on how we do, we'd love to keep working with and could scale us much faster than we otherwise could.
Adam, you talked about already having positive cash flow, but then emphasized a product that's not yet to market. So what is the broader picture? Is the company a one-trick pony, so to speak, or is there a family of products that you already have in place and are building?
So all-terrain sound, the rugged-looking speaker that's Bluetooth, is already on the market. It's driving sales. It's where we're building new relationships with buyers. It's where we're getting into big box retail like Walmart through licensing strategies, and where we're getting ourselves out there further. So that product is keeping us cash flow positive right now, and one step further is launching the next product, which we believe there can be a family under it on its own.
So you mentioned patents. Can you tell us a little bit about what the patents are around, and what is the status of the patents? And then also relative to production, have you made any of these yet?
So on the patent side, design patent, it's a design patent, but from the utility patent side, it's basically a waterproof floating speaker with a built-in operating system and touchscreen that has higher than 3 watts. So it's niche, but it protects what most likely would enter our market. It's pending. That's currently the status on that. And the other question, one more time, sorry.
Have you made it?
We've done prototype runs of it. We've tooled some pieces of it. Come late April, we're going to have ready-to-go units, and then come May, we're going to do a run of 100 units that will be in testers' hands, beta buyers, all of that, who we've already dealt with.
Adam, how does it affect your product if smartphones become more and more waterproof? Imagine a world where everybody has a life-proof case, or 80% of the smartphones are waterproof. How does that affect your product?
So I think that time frame of that happening could be as past a decade. So I think that's a long time view. But to answer that, most cell phones, or all cell phones, sync. Life-proof cases sync. The cases that don't have buoys tied to them, you pay $20 for the buoys, the life-proof cases, and then you're coming with a waterproof speaker. So I think the speaker part of it is really vital, and I think the market's not going to drive in that direction for a long time.
Thanks.
So Adam, great presentation. So as you think about the BOM cost, I have a couple quick questions. Number one, what are the volume requirements to hit that BOM cost, and is that, with the fully integrated feature set or the launch feature set? And then the question I had is, as you threw up those financials, what type of volume are you thinking about in sort of the first 2 launch quarters and then the future? Because that has a huge effect on the capital requirements as you go to stocking and delivering product.
Definitely. So we did our BOM cost off of 10,000 units. First run, again, 100, so obviously that's not the case. Next one will be 1,000 to 2,000, and then we're hoping to hit that late summer for getting ready towards Christmas. So that's the BOM cost side of it. From the financial side of it, we're looking in the 18-month span, 100,000 units is what we project. In the first 2 quarters, we're projecting roughly 25,000 units when we have Christmas, 20,000 units.
And can you, I'm sorry. No. I was going to ask, can you talk a little bit about the marketing dollars that you need to spend? Because the competitors that you listed up there, including companies that are small like Outdoor Tech, but the big ones are spending significant dollars on marketing. They're very good marketing companies, and they're very efficient marketing companies. So the question is how do you compete with someone like that is spending a bunch of money but spending it efficiently?
So out of the gate, we'll get the benefit of the PR and the awareness, that recognition that we'll get. So that's kind of a nice bump that we'll see. We'll also get the distribution eyeballs. So when Zully, when Touch & Modern, when Fancy puts our product on the homepage, when we're on Extra with all-terrain sound at the beginning of April, when all of those PR hits, we think we'll get our first upsurge and be able to hit those numbers for the next 2 Qs. With that said, we are getting very, very knowledgeable when it comes to AdWords spend, when it comes to marketing spend, and so we believe from our conversions on all-terrain sound right now, we'll be able to convert at a positive ratio per unit.
But do you have an idea of sort of, hey, 18 months I'm going to spend X on marketing?
Definitely. So that's about a $1.5 million spend of what we think will generate about $12 million in the next 18 months with 100,000 units sold.
Got it.
Adam, great presentation. 2 quick questions. On the supply side, fulfilling a large contract from somebody like a Walmart or the European big box retailer you just mentioned, how confident are you in the ability to manufacture that large quantity units? Tell us a little bit more about the secret sauce behind where these things are being made to get out that number of units. And just tie back for me, I don't know if you have a slide in it, but just tie back for me the revenue targets that you're talking about here. 100,000 units being shipped out at $199 is different than what was in the material that we sent in terms of the 18 to 24 month projections. So really just trying to get a sense of where do you see this in 5 years, and how much capital will you need to get there, recognizing you're not raising any right now, but you said you're going to raise some potentially in 9 to 12 months. What does a 5-year picture look like in terms of revenues, and how much capital do you need to get there? So 2 questions.
So at the end of the day, we projected large numbers for 5 years. I think the market's going to dictate either A, we're going to prove the market exists, it's going to grow awareness, competitors may enter, awareness is going to go up significantly, in which case we're going to need significant capital, and we've built models on that where we're thinking we need $5 million to get ourselves to the next level while we're generating cash and each unit's making us profit, spending that on marketing, spending that on building the right sales team, getting our distribution, and getting the right just marketing spend out there. But with that said, if competitors don't enter our market and we get to be Sonos, we can have an easier path that goes a longer term before Bose comes out, enters the market, and has a product that they chased Sonos's tail, so Sonos is way ahead still. So in either of those scenarios, and the second one, we may only need to raise $1 million. In the first one, we may need to raise $5 million, or maybe a little bit more.
We have about 1 minute left.
Adam, what's the revenue on the rugged speaker?
The revenue on that's over $300,000 roughly.
And so one last thing, the difference between that ruggedized speaker and the one you have is that that one actually has software on it.
Correct.
So how are you guys anticipating both the production and test, which is remarkably different when you have that OS and that software on there?
Definitely. So one of the big pieces is we have someone boots on the ground in the factory there to test it. After our first 100-unit run, I'm planning on going there to make sure everything is running right. Jayesh is planning to go there on some of our runs if we need it. So we understand, definitely agree, software is a different game. I have a background from software from a previous company integrating it onto hardware. Jayesh has a longer background in that history, and Faye has a background on manufacturing, so those products. So we believe between our team, we're comfortable in executing on that.
That's time. Next pitch is from 1983 Rollins College graduate Doug Storr with a Nighthawk running.
Well, thank you and good evening, and appreciate you being here tonight. My name is Doug Storr, CEO and founder of Nighthawk Running, the developer of the innovative safety fitness product, Night Runner LED shoe lights. Night Runner was developed by athletes for all active people to safely light the way to run, walk, bike, and hike from dusk until dawn. So 9 months, I was training for the New York City Marathon. One morning, disaster struck. It was a training run. It was in the dark. I hit a pothole. I took a dive. The result was a torn ligament. So instead of touring the 5 boroughs of New York City with 50,000 other runners, I was sitting at home on Marathon Sunday. So I had a lot of time to think about how to keep athletes safer and injury-free as they're doing what they love to do. So with that, since I can't take each of you out on a night run right now, I would like to share a video with you.
Night Runner LED shoe lights are a lightweight, unobstructive lighting accessory for walkers, runners, and cyclists. The lightweight design, water-resistant casing, and secure low-profile mounting system allow for hassle-free use in any conditions. Shoe lights offer frontward visibility to forecast terrain up to 30 meters, and side and rear-facing lights to provide visibility to other runners and motorists. The compact lithium-ion rechargeable batteries can provide up to 8 hours of light on a single charge and offer easy and convenient USB charging. Night Runner LED shoe lights. See more, run more.
Well, I hope you enjoyed your run. I've built a strong team of star performers, and I am honored to be able to lead that team. My background is 30 years in sales and business development for Fortune 500 companies, but more importantly, I've been a runner for 35 years. It's a passion. It's what I love to do. My wife and president and co-founder, right here, Renata, 25 years of experience in the design business for a national architectural firm. She's training for her first half marathon. Also, Greg Holgate, our Chief Marketing Officer, brings 25 years of international sports marketing experience for such brands as DJO Global and Callaway Golf. We have a team member on the ground in China, Nancy Zhang, who's overseeing manufacturing and logistics. We will be putting a CFO in place later this year. And I want to introduce our PR and social media strategist, Laura Beachy, who comes to us by way of Runner's World. She is also an ultramarathoner and a triathlete. She's an animal. CJ Obefor is a Rollins intern. CJ, where are you? He's helping us with our marketing. And John Riley, he's an investor and an advisor to me. I can tell you that John has been with us from day one. He's also a fraternity brother from way too many years ago. Ben Hewitt also joins us as an investor and advisor. He's been with us very early on. He was the inventor of the cork sickle, so his experiences in that journey with developing a product have been quite useful. And then last but not least, John and Betsy Hughes, who a lot of you know as the owners of the Track Shack here in town. They are perennially the top 4 running store in the country, and they oversee all of the Run Disney races across the country. Excuse me. There we go. So, what is the problem and just how big is it? Well, we know there are 256 million runners, walkers, hikers, and cyclists in the United States. We also know from our research that 68% of those go out and do their thing in the pre-dawn hours or in the evenings during the week, in the darkness. The problem is that every 8 minutes, one of them is struck by a vehicle, and half of the fatalities occur between 6 p.m. and midnight in the dark hours. So the solution is Night Runner LED lights, developed by athletes for all active people. They safely light the way to run, walk, bike, and hike from dusk until dawn. They provide any advance warning of any hazards in front of you and also make you visible to traffic. But the unique thing is that they're unobtrusive to your experience. There's no headbands, belts, or straps to bother with. So the features, and I'm going to hand these around, include 2 ultralight LED light units, an ounce and a half apiece. I'll turn these on for you. They sit atop a waterproof case with a shoe clip that goes onto the shoelaces. You see the back red side markers that you can see from 270 degrees around, and I'll pass those around. And 3 to 4 hours of battery life. So you can either go for a week long if you run short runs, or you can go for a long session. Now, one of the features I'd like to highlight to you is Bluetooth smartphone integration. This is truly a first in the industry for the active safety light environment. So we have and this is also something that we've gotten into our patent, and we feel is one of the defining features. So most people run with a smartphone to keep track of their distance, their pace, and so forth. So we can do preset intervals that will be expressed in the form of a flash alert on the shoes. So if you want to know when you've run a mile, the flash will tell you that you've run a mile. If you want to stay above a certain pace, then that can be expressed in the flash mode. Now, we have already reached out to some of the top connected fitness app companies in the country, including Under Armour. There's an interest in this, and we're going to be looking to partner with them and leverage their over 200 million participants. Now, we are not a one-product company. We're starting out with our endurance model, and which is the basic Night Runner. The Connected would have the Bluetooth feature with that. But we're also going to be going right behind that with our hiking and trail running. We call that the Sherpa. So that has a little bit more battery life, a little bit more rugged. And then the last one we call the Fiat Lux. Does anybody know what that means? Always shining. All right, that's for our occupational safety market. So that is the group that is the road workers, the DOT workers that are out working at night that need to be visible to traffic, the postal workers, the delivery workers that have to have hands-free lighting to do their job. We can help them be safer and save lives. We do have a patent pending. We submitted it in March 2014. We feel the patentable features are the Bluetooth smartphone integration, the clip system that attaches to the shoelace. We took a lot of time to engineer that, and then the rechargeable shoe light. So I mentioned that there's 256 million participants in this marketplace. They break down like this between the runners and trail runners, the cyclists, the hikers, and the fitness walkers. The Night Runner customer are those core participants that do their activity 3 to 4 times a week. That's roughly 50% of that, which is 128 million. So that's who we are targeting. Now, our total available markets, we really span 3 distinct markets. We're very comfortably fit into the running accessory market, which is a $2.43 billion market when you take out running shoes from that. But there's a new market called visibility that is being defined over the last 2 years by all of the major players in the space, the Nike, the Brooks, the Roadrunner Sports. This is all the visibility gear that they're and accessories that go along with that to keep people safe. And then with the Bluetooth smartphone capability, that moves us into the connected fitness, which is a $26 billion marketplace. I'm very pleased to say that we wrapped up a successful Kickstarter campaign on Wednesday. We were able to raise $43,000. More importantly, we pre-sold 700 units in just 30 days. Now, we did this not so much for the money, although that's helpful. We did it to validate our customers and to also engage with our customers, and we did that. And we were most impressed with the fact that our backers came from 25 different countries across the globe. Last December, Renata and I went out to Austin, Texas to debut Night Runner to the independent running retailers in Austin, and this was the largest gathering. We came back with commitments from 38 retail stores across the country to carry Night Runner. We didn't even have a product, so they are very excited about the concept and anxious to get it. And we've already generated a buzz. We've worked hard to do that, to get out there and build the brand. We were featured in Runner's World magazine this month, and also the Upstart Business Journal, both national publications. I had the opportunity to audition this morning for a reality TV show called The Startup Hour. It's a little like Shark Tank meets crowdfunding. We'll see what happens with that. But we've got a lot of local media as well, which has been great to start to build the brand for Night Runner. So our sales strategy, it starts with direct customer engagement. We know who the most obvious customers are. Those are those ones that are out training for relay races, day and night relay races, the ultra marathons. There's actually 400,000 participants just in that category. So we're going to go after them first and sponsor their events and get our lights on their feet. We're also going to leverage e-commerce platforms so that we can go direct to our customers, so we can build the brand, we can get out there, get customers and win customers and build revenue. We'll then go to the independent running retailers and the big box stores, both in the sports and the outdoor market. Strategic partnerships are also going to be an important part of our strategy. We're going to look to make partnerships with groups like Relay for Life and Race for the Cure. They have millions of participants that are out there on the streets training for their events, and we want to help them be safer while they're doing that. So our marketing strategy is threefold. It starts with events and partnerships, which I mentioned to you some of those. Our social and traditional media, which we were already off and running and creating a buzz and building the brand for Night Runner. And then the retail stores and trade shows. So we've already started to forge those channels into the retails and also attend the trade shows. We've got several on the calendar. So our cost model starts with $60 retail price. We'll keystone that to the retailer, and we know that we can manufacture these for manufacture, package, and deliver these for $15. We're working to get that price down over time with volume, and that leaves a retail profit of $30 and a profit to Night Runner for $15. Now on the direct side, and you can see why I'm so interested in doing this direct, which will be 80% of our business, our profit margin rises to $45. So our competition. Our competition really is the headlights, the strap-on lights, and also the handheld lights. But to be honest with you, there's a lot of active people out there that don't even use those because they are so cumbersome and intrusive to what they're doing. So we're going to bring in a whole new set of customers with that as well. But we really win in every category. We put the light down low where you need it to be. We have 270 degrees of visibility, with which none of our competition can touch that. We also are the lightest at 1.5 ounces, if you noticed as the shoes were being passed around. And we're the most cost competitive at $60 when compared to other rechargeable headlamp products. So our financials, in year one, we're looking at 25,000 units. We're going to ramp that up to 600,000 units by year 5. And then our year 5 revenues would be looking at $32.4 million with a year 5 EBITDA of $15 million. I know you're all interested in exit, and yes, there is an exit. We are going to work hard on execution, and the execution is going to be building the brand, building the customers, and building revenue. And we're confident by year 3 to 5 that we will have an attractive business for an acquisition target. We know that the shoe companies are interested in this space. We complement their visibility lines. We complement the products that they sell. The people that wear our products will be doing this. They'll be doing their activities more often, and the running accessory and our competitors. And we feel that's a 6 to 8 times EBITDA. So very quickly, we're seeking $500,000, which will allow us to manufacture, get through tooling, manufacture 20,000 units. I can tell you that if we were so fortunate to win this competition, the $50,000 coupled with the $38,000 net proceeds from Kickstarter, that would put us on the path to commercialization with tooling and manufacturing of 2,500 units. So in closing, I'd just like to say that winning this competition would be truly defining for our development right now in our company, and getting this product to people to safely light the way for them to enjoy their activities. So thank you very much for being here, and I would look forward to taking any questions that you might have.
You want to do it, Ed?
I was a little unclear on the battery life.
Yes.
How long, how long will a set of batteries last, and how many hours, and how much does a set of batteries cost?
Well, this is a lithium-ion rechargeable battery. They'll last 4 to 8 hours, and you recharge them, and that's why they're so light. So they've got a very multi-year lifespan. So the whole idea was to put something on the feet that was rechargeable, take that weight off of a replaceable battery, so you don't have to replace them.
How much does it cost the customer to acquire the charger and the batteries?
Well, the price is included in the $60 for the pair. What they get is they get a Y charger. There is no charger. It plugs into a USB cord. It plugs into the wall, and so the micro USB charges both units at the same time with a Y connector.
I run with the dog in dark hours.
Oh, yeah.
I suggest I would get one and put it on his collar.
Yeah,
because right now
absolutely.
I light him with a headlight that's not very effective.
We've talked to some folks that will use it for walking their dogs. I mean, you know, if you're out early in the morning in the dark, you need to be safe.
Doug, nice job.
Thank you.
And congratulations. It's a lot of work you've put into bringing this together. One of the things I'm concerned about is the amount of money you need to go forward, and then the 4 markets that you're fundamentally trying to address separately, and the ability to be able to build a brand in each of those environments. Sort of the concern I have is, can you do it? Can you do it with the amount of money you're talking about? And is your strategy solid enough that you think you can get through all that with what you have?
Well, to answer your question, yes, we can do it with that amount of money. I will tell you that although I've separated them out here for conversation, the runners, the trail runners, and the walkers really buy things at the same time or the same place. They kind of follow each other, so that all goes together. The cyclists may be a little bit different because there's a different set of independent stores for those and big boxes for those. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time talking about occupational safety because it's a whole nother distribution channel, and that will take a concerted effort. But we will separate that out. We will have salespeople that focus on nothing but the governmental channels and reaching that occupational safety. But a lot of those, while they are separated by name, we're going to go about them in the same branding, the same type of approach, where they buy the things at the same store. So.
Hey, Doug, well done.
Thank you.
My question is around sort of long-term customers. You're going after a specific group of people, and let's say they love your product and they say, what's next? So how do you capture on kind of repeat customers that are very fired up about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, well, we want to be able to offer several models, and you saw that there might be some that start off with the non-Bluetooth component, and that's what they want to use for a while. Then they realize that they need the Bluetooth component. So we are going to be offering several different models. But once you get these on the feet of somebody and they go out with their running group, their friends are going to want them, and they're going to see these in use, and that's how we're going to have a viral spread of people wanting these. But we'll also, listen to our customers very carefully. Through this design process, we've evolved this design to take advantage of the feedback that we've gotten from customers. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Doug. So you have a mix between retail and direct, and I was wondering if you guys have data on, in this particular market, how many people buy these types of accessories direct versus at a retail store? Yeah. And how has that been part of the plan you've put together? Because clearly margin's better in direct, but we see this in lots of people's pitches, and turns out that everybody buys retail. Yeah. I don't think that's the case here. Right. But can you give me a feel for what data you guys have used to sort of build that into the plan?
Yeah, I can tell you, even in the 2 years since we've been working on this project and bringing this product to life, that table has shifted towards direct. And what people are doing now, it's so easy to get products online. It's so easy to know, as you know what you want, you can order it and you can get it in 2 or 3 days. So e-commerce, people aren't scared of anymore, particularly in this space with the runners. They tend to be a little frugal, and they tend to want what they want when they want it, and so a lot of times that translates to e-commerce. Now, it doesn't replace the personal service of some of the independent running retailers. So our focus really on the retail side will be those independent running retailers, but the majority of it will be e-commerce.
Kickstarter, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yes, and it provides you with a lot of data. Yes. From that experience, what did you learn that was, on one extreme, the biggest surprise you weren't expecting, and on the other extreme, reaffirmed something you were expecting?
Without a doubt, the global acceptance of these. We were astounded when people started ordering these from Belgium, from Germany, from Canada, from New Zealand. We were contacted by distributors in Italy, in France, in Australia, and people loved it. And I started asking them, there's a wonderful thing about Kickstarters, you've got the ability to engage these customers. So I would say thank you, and by the way, how are you going to use Night Runner? And I would get back these incredible stories about, I'm from Alaska. There's only 2 hours of daylight in the winter, and I run through this mountain pass. We got a email from a sergeant in the United States Army who is running what's the name of the race? El Scorcho in El Paso, Texas. He wanted to know if he could get his night runners early to run that ultra marathon. To hear these kinds of stories was just gratifying. So So, and what confirmed it was that people needed these. I would say that that's it, that they thanked us for the fact that they were going to be safer when they went out and did what they love to do.
I'd like to go back and revisit the marketing question.
Okay.
What is your marketing plan, and how much money have you put aside of that $500K for marketing?
Well, the 500K we have, let's see, $150,000 in SG&A. We've got about $100,000 that first year just for marketing. And that's going to be focused on, as I said, going direct to the customer for the major events, the Ragnar Relays, the Hood to Coast races, some of the Run Disney races that are night races. So we're not only going to sponsor those, but we're going to target and market to those participants of that. And that's a large enough segmented market that we can hit that quickly and build the brand with a segment of customers that really are opinion leaders. Once they see them using it, other people are going to want to do those things.
Going forward, what percentage of your revenue you anticipate and spend in marketing?
Well, our cost to acquire a customer is roughly about 20% going forward.
Thank you.
Quick questions.
Yes.
I like the product, great presentation, but I think you're going to have to grow the company a lot faster. So very direct, very simple question. I don't think you have 5 years here to get to $15 million of EBITDA. Are you open to raising more money and having to give up more equity to grow the company faster?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm here today. No, we've gotten We've gotten some great advice from people, and some of them have said, look, hold on as much equity, grow the company organically through sales, and then others have said, you got to build a brand, you got to hit the market hard, you got to run fast. And we get it. You do have to run fast. I agree with you. But I'll tell you that we have to date raised $121,000 from friends and family, and we've done a heck of a lot with that money to get to this point. Money is the fuel that makes this work, and so I'm out here pitching on every occasion to help grow this company. Would I love for one person to write a check and get us off in a major way? Yes, that would be the right way to do it. But I'll get it done regardless.
About 45 seconds left.
Forgot to mention, I really like the product, and I'd get one for myself as well as my dog.
Absolutely.
But I do have a question. Have you thought about inventory and the cost of inventory, and something like per $1,000 of revenue, how much inventory would you have to have available, the timing between investment and product and recovering from a customer?
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, we're working through that now, and we have contracted with a manufacturer that is going to assist us with that. And what we have to do is understand first what our first manufacturing runs are going to be. We know the demand is out there. It's how fast we can address it. If we were to be fortunate enough to win this competition, get to the market with a short manufacturing run, then we'll get out there, we'll prove that. But when we get a larger amount of investment, we have the mechanism and partners already in place to address the inventory and make sure we can fulfill those.
That's time.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, it's my pleasure to introduce our third company, 2010 Rollins graduate Logan Lachlan with Sipper.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. As Josh said, I'm here to present my product, Sipper Cocktails. The purpose of our company. We are an all-natural, low-calorie, distilled spirits-based, ready-to-pour cocktail producer. Our product capitalizes on the ability to sell low alcohol, under 6% alcohol by volume, distilled spirits-based products in 21 states throughout the country, most notably here in Florida. We are the only distilled spirits-based product under 6% available in Florida convenience and grocery stores. We will initially launch our products in Florida and Nevada. A little about the company. There's myself. I'm the founder and head of product development. Sipper Cocktails were founded in my kitchen. There's my father, Toby Lachlan. Toby will be assisting in finance and management of the company. He's a successful entrepreneur himself. In his 35-plus years in business, he's raised and managed over $65 million, creating 2 successful telecommunication companies, which he then sold to 2 publicly traded companies. We have a strategic relationship with the Inky Brands Spirits Group. Inky Brands is a spirits company specializing in the development of early-stage brands. The company has a complete management, marketing team, and sales force comprised of the best from the spirits industry. Inky Brands is a truly unique business model that allows the company to create explosive brand growth for its acquired brands. Inky Brands interviews dozens of new brands every year, but only acquires a select few rigorously pre-qualified early-stage brands. Despite what the Inky Brands name may suggest, the company is far from just an incubator or a mentor program. Rather, it's a direct partnership in which Inky Brands invests the full strength of its management, marketing, and sales team network towards its acquired brand and sees the company through from launch to its exit. Along the way, they will earn equity based upon performance, such as cases sold. Because so much time and attention is paid to each acquired brand, there are only a handful of products in their portfolio. Sipper Cocktails has been offered a position in the Inky Brands Spirits Group award-winning product portfolio. The value proposition for joining Inky Brands is simple. Standalone brands are barraging the market and successfully raising capital. While many of these brands have interesting prospects, it is very difficult to engage the best and the brightest talent from the 6 to 8 critical areas of new brand development, which makes their chances for success very remote. These 6 to 8 critical areas include brand strategy, operations, distribution, marketing, sales, national chain sales, media, and administration and finance. Our relationship with Inky Brands gives us instant credibility and access to these 6 to 8 key areas and the ability for the company to penetrate the market quickly and effectively. Executives in the Inky Brands group have held executive roles in the following companies. They have the former CFO of Bacardi, the former president of Cruzan Rum, director at Angostura Bitters, and director of new product incorporation at Brown-Forman. The following brands you see on the screen are brands that Inky Brands has directly helped develop. To highlight one of them, on the left-hand side of the screen, Angel's Envy has been one of their main brands. They've had it in their pipeline for 3 years, and on Friday, you'll probably read it about in the paper. It's going to sell for over $150 million. We also have a legal team headlined by Fox Rothschild. We source our flavors and ingredients from Pernova USA, one of the leading private flavor houses in the country. We get our graphics and design work done by TK Orlando, and we blend and bottle our product at Panache Distillery in Newport Richey, Florida. There's our 3 products that we're going to launch to the market initially. We have the Cucumberesque, the Gingerita, and the Hibiscus Berry. All 3 products retail in a convenient 4-pack carrier that you see in front of you. Now, if you haven't already, judges, I'd like to encourage you to take a taste test, and see what all the buzz is about for yourself. While you taste it, keep in mind that these products are all natural. We use no artificial flavors, sweeteners, or colors. Each product is distilled spirits-based using either premium vodka or tequila. And each product is under 85 calories per 4-ounce serving, which is significantly less than any of our competitors. And the product is economical, which I'll get into further in the presentation. Taking a look at the US RTD market today, it's an $815 million industry with a projected annual growth rate of 5.5%. Our demographics. Almost 2/3 of millennials consumed RTD alcoholic beverages within the last 3 months, which is significantly more than any other generation. Considering the sheer size and spending power of the millennials, 80 million strong, this younger demographic will continue to propel RTD beverage growth now and in the future. If you take a look at the question up there, I'm open to buying ready-to-drink cocktails from brands I don't know. Overwhelmingly, over 75% of both males and females answered yes, indicating that while large multinational RTD brands continue to dominate the market, RTD consumers remain open to buying products released by new brands that they haven't heard of yet. I would like to see a greater variety of flavors in the ready-to-drink alcoholic beverages. Again, over 75% of both Generation X and Millennials answered yes, indicating that there is a strong demand for new RTD flavors such as Sipper. Marketing, perhaps one of the single most important aspects when bringing a new brand to market. With our relationship with Incu Brands and our own strategy internally, we're going to employ a team of brand ambassadors that will represent different regions in which the product is sold. We'll use shelf talkers in convenience stores and grocery stores, and we'll enter trade shows such as the National Convenience Store Convention, the National Grocery Store Convention, and the Natural Foods Convention. We'll also use tastings in store so consumers can try before they buy. In-store tastings are the most efficient way of attracting new customers. A well-trained sampler can convert a quarter of customers coming into the store. We'll also use social media, which is significant, considering nearly a quarter of millennials learn about new drinks from social media and internet advertising. RTDs in general attract predominantly female consumers. Thus, Sipper cocktails will attract and be marketed towards primarily women between the ages of 21 and 49. Our strategy in getting the brand to market. We primarily target off-premise grocery and convenience stores. Gaining relevant distribution is one of the most difficult barriers when bringing a new brand to market in this industry. In order to get around this barrier, we engage prospective retail clients before distributors. We pre-sell products to them, and we generate early interest in the products. Once we have generated enough interest, we then go to the distributors. This allows us the ability to engage the top distributors in the country, as well as negotiate lower margins with them. Using this strategy, we've had meaningful negotiations and discussions with the buyers of every single major retail chain you see on the screen. To highlight a few, the MGM Resorts are ordering product for 40 of their retail stores in their Las Vegas Strip properties. We're also talking to them about placing it poolside for their bars in Las Vegas. Winn-Dixie Bilo, we met with their buyers in Jacksonville 3 weeks ago. The buyer was enthusiastic about it. He mentioned he would like to try it at 140 of his liquor stores in the southeast territory of Winn-Dixie, as well as 450 of their grocery stores in Florida and Louisiana, the two states in which it can be sold. And the giant convenience store chain out in Arizona and New Mexico have indicated they'd like to test the product in 96 of their stores. Because we've been able to pre-sell and generate so much buzz from these major retail clients, we've also been able to get our foot in the door with major distributors that would normally ignore a new brand. Southern Wine and Spirits contacted us about representing us to distribute for the giant C-store chain in New Mexico and Arizona. Republic National accompanied us in our meeting with Winn-Dixie, and they're interested in servicing that account, as well as connecting us with their current C-store accounts, including 7-Eleven and Circle K. And Wertz Beverage in Nevada is interested in servicing our MGM accounts in Las Vegas. The map of the United States, the 21 states in green are states in which the product can be sold in convenience and grocery stores. This is a served available market of $570 million. Looking at the products or the margins for everybody involved in the federally regulated three-tier system, Tier 1, the producer, Sipper, will take a 43% margin, which is considered healthy in this industry. Tier 2, the distributor, will take between 20 and 30% depending on the account. And Tier 3, the retailer, will take between 25 and 35%, depending on the store and the location. Our final suggested retail price per 4-pack is between $10.99 and $12.99. The competition. In the distilled spirits-based area, where products cannot be sold in grocery or convenience stores here in Florida, products range between $14.99 and $15.99. These prices are from Winn-Dixie. Malt and wine-based products, which can be sold in convenience and grocery stores in Florida, between $7.99 and $8.99, and $2.50 for a single-serve pouch. You can think of Sipper as a whole new category. For the first time, consumers can purchase a distilled spirits-based cocktail from a grocery store or convenience store here in Florida. The property that we own. We own the rights to the flavors and formulas used to produce Sipper products, and we own the trademark to the use of Sipper for all alcoholic beverages. We also own the following domain names, and we own our 200 ml PET bottle mold. Taking a look at our cash flow and exit strategy, as you can see from the chart, we do not follow a traditional cash flow model in which you try to be cash flow positive by year 3. This is by design. Our strategy is to create explosive brand growth through marketing initiatives. So most of this money is going into marketing. 50,000 cases sold is a benchmark for interested multinational companies to begin to take notice. Large multinational companies rarely build brands anymore, they buy them. Recent acquisitions in this industry have valued brands between 6 and 15 times gross revenue, so just ridiculous margins. Year 5 value, if we follow our plan, would be $115 million. Our use of funds. Our company has received all final Trade Tobacco Bureau final approvals and will begin our first major production run on April 20th. We will produce 1,500 cases to meet initial orders from the MGM resorts in Las Vegas for a rollout in May of 2015, and the total cost to produce this run will be $45,000. Proceeds from the Rollins Venture Challenge will assist us in financing our initial run. We're very excited to launch this brand with Inky Brands as our partner, and we believe that this could be a home run. Thank you, and I'll open it to questions.
Can you tell us how much you're trying to raise and at what kind of valuation?
Yes. Our strategy right now is we are not raising money for this initial run. We're going to self-finance that, and we're going to use that as a test in Las Vegas. So, if we were to raise money at this very moment, we'd be giving out a whole lot of equity. So we're going to test that market, and assuming it works, and then we get picked up by Winn-Dixie, then the business plan calls for about a $10 million raise. That'll be used for a significant marketing campaign, which is very important for growing this explosive brand growth. And we actually met with the Inky Brands partners yesterday in Palm Beach, and we talked about the plan, and we felt comfortable that $10 million was the price that they raised. That's what they raised for their Angel's Envy product, which just sold or is going to sell tomorrow, assuming everything goes to plan. So.
Another company announced their intention to sell powdered alcohol, and the result was that states started passing laws about a product that doesn't exist yet. You're working on the premise that 21 states will allow this product under the wine laws. What are your concerns about changes in state regulations?
Well, actually, that's actually a very good question. We are not the first person to do this in Florida. Believe it or not, the Bacardi Breezer, which I'm sure everybody heard of, they launched in Florida, back in the 80s. Actually, the CEO of Inky Brands was part of that launch, and that product used to be rum-based, under 6%. So it was sold in Florida, and what they wanted to do, being Bacardi, is go not just nationally but internationally, as well as drastically improve their margins. So they made it malt-based in the end, because malt is a lot cheaper than, it's not taxed as high as a distilled spirit. So we're not the first one to do it. It's been wildly successful, and when we talked to Republic National about it, they were very excited that the guy even said on the phone, we've been waiting for another product like this. We used to do very well with these in C-stores and grocery stores in Florida. As far as the other 21 states, those are their current regulations. and it's not every state is like Florida where it has this very special designation. Some states like Louisiana, it's like the Wild West. You could sell moonshine in a grocery store, a convenience store. So, we're not really taking advantage of a lot. We're just, targeting those off-premise accounts.
Thanks, Logan. Richard drank all mine, so I didn't get to taste it, but that was a great presentation.
I didn't get enough yet.
There's plenty more.
The question I have is more around distribution. You seem to have earmarked the C-store type category, and it occurs to me that just given the makeup of the product seems to be all natural, and maybe that's a differentiator. Have you considered going into a Whole Foods or sort of a more of an organic type approach to the distribution of the product?
Yeah, we're also targeting grocery stores. We've reached out to Whole Foods. Unfortunately, we can't sell it in, Fresh Market, I meant. We can't sell it in Whole Foods. They have all these regulations. If there's any kind of like preservative or any kind of coloring, like we use caramel coloring in ours, and they have these regulations that say we can't use it. But it's Fresh Market, we could sell it, and we reached out to them, and we are going to be entering the Natural Foods Convention next year, and we hope to attract a lot of customers in that space as well. But right now, we actually have a relationship with a company called Damon Worldwide. They're a big broker and private label development firm up in Stamford, Connecticut, and they represent brands like Kroger, Costco, Target, CVS, and they set us up with some of their main buyers out there, and that's how we got a lot of these contacts. So as opposed to me cold calling people, they literally bring this to the front desk of the main buyer and said, here's a great new product, look at this. They set up a meeting with us. We've met with several of these large retail chains, and not one of them has said no. We've had a lot of follow-up meetings. Actually, I just got an email in the lobby while I was waiting from Racetrack, the gas store chain, requesting a follow-up meeting. So, so far, so good. So.
Logan, nice, a thorough presentation. I really liked it.
Thank you.
The question I have, and it relates again to marketing and distribution. You seem to, most of your at least go-to-market strategy has been focused on large retail chains and so forth, but they're fundamentally not the buyer. It's the consumer that's the buyer, and the fear that I sort of sit here with is the amount of money it takes to build a brand that a consumer buys and consumes on a very regular basis, or a reasonably regular basis, is difficult, particularly in the field you're in, because there's a lot of established brands. And I buy the Bacardi story, but Bacardi's done a nice job selling their brand for a long time.
Sure.
So what is the strategy to go and convince the consumer? Because once Winn-Dixie puts it on a few shelves, you still, if I walk by with my little cart, I got to be able to drag it off the shelf, and I got to remember to do that, want to do that, and I see it, and it's interesting you say this, because just yesterday I was in Publix, and I happened to see something similar. I don't know, I didn't spend a lot of time, but I did see ready to drink product on an end cap shelf. So what is going to be the sort of the marketing strategy to get there? And I think some of these the partners you have might have one, but what is the strategy?
That's a great question, and some companies can spend millions of dollars putting up billboards, putting up print ads, and you have no idea who's gonna listen to it, who's gonna go, how that affects them. One of the tried and true methods that IncuBrands used for many of their brands, which they have taught us and which we're going to employ for this brand, is the in-store tastings, and they are really cost efficient. It's like $1 or $130 for 3 hours, and you can actually train these people that go in the store and give a tasting. They gave me an example when Jay, who's the CEO, worked for Bacardi, and this was in the 70s when Bacardi, they were big, but they weren't the massive brand that they are today. There was this one woman who could sell 2 cases of rum in 3 hours because she was just well trained. Somebody would walk by, they'd go and get she'd say, come try this, and they'd be like, no, I'm going to get my bourbon. I don't want to try that coconut rum. And she'd be like, well, just sniff it. And they would sniff it, and then they'd naturally taste it, and then they'd be like, all right, give me 3 bottles. I need to make a pina colada rum this weekend. So that's the most efficient way of doing it. As I said, these tastings can attract or convert a quarter of people that walk in and actually try it. And we're convinced the flavors we have, if you were to try this in a store, if you were going in to buy a ready-to-drink and you had the opportunity to try this before you buy it, there's nothing else like it on the market. The taste is good, first of all. And when I was at the Winn-Dixie meeting, this guy is an old-time buyer, I come in and he said, oh, good, another RTD. Listen, I'm just going to be up front with you. I'm going to try it. If I don't like it, the meeting's over. And he took a sip of each one, and he turned to the Republic National distributor and said, hey, Randy, do we have room in our cold section? And Randy said, yeah, we do. And he's like, okay, good. And so, that's just an example of being able to taste the product is such a key selling point. No matter how all natural or low calorie it is, if you get to taste it, you're going to buy it if that's what you're going there for. So.
Just go for a minute left. So my one quick question here is you talked about how these companies exit. And look, I think great taste is important, and I probably drank Richard's, and you drank Sean's, but the reason they get acquired for those multiples is because they have a product and they have a brand started, and the bigger brands that buy them can run them through their distribution channel and run them through their customer base, and they can make a ton more money than the small money companies can. And so I think getting the brand awareness out there and figuring out how to target those 21 to 49-year-olds is the most critical element. And have you guys thought about how sort of the social media market is going to work, and how because they're all over that market, and even if it tastes great, if it doesn't taste great, they will still buy you at a huge multiple, right? If they can run you through their channel and people are buying it, right?
So the question is our social media strategy?
Yeah, so how are you going to target these folks to really get on the brand versus the tasting, which is not really a brand builder?
Quick answer.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not really good at that, but we met with Inky Brands, as I said yesterday, and we talked about how social media, these are some older guys, but I happen to be in that millennial generation. We happen to work with a couple really good marketing people. They have, Bogan Crispin Boguski as their head marketing team. They do the marketing for like Best Buy and Volkswagen. And these are some really smart people. I am not going to pretend I'm an expert at social media, but this is an example of one of the Inky Brands strategies that they're able to give us. One of the main focuses that they have is building brands through marketing. And we're going to tap into that and really go after that millennial generation. So.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Rollins graduate Lindsay Lang.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Sanara Madani, and I'm CEO and founder of a company called Fat Merchant. I have the privilege of being here today with our leadership team, and I'm happy to tell you about our company. Fat Merchant is a subscription-based payment processor that offers unlimited credit card processing to small to medium-sized businesses across the nation for a flat monthly fee. There are over 28 million businesses in the United States alone, with over 500,000 new businesses established each and every single month. Well, did you know that these merchants pay over $150,000 on average for their credit card processing fees annually? These merchants are leaving over $1.7 billion on the table that they pay in excess overages and fees charged by their current merchant providers. After 4 years of being in the credit card industry, I quickly learned that there's 2 people in this world you don't trust. 1 is your auto mechanic, and 2 is your merchant sales provider. And what I learned is that this industry was a black box. Nobody could ask why or what or how. Merchants were locked into these long-term contracts. There was a lack of transparency, and customers were seeking that. Merchant companies were profiting way too much off of their business success with variable profitability. And let me tell you about how the current merchant bill works to leave that $1.78 billion on the table. Well, there are three components of a merchant processing bill. I know many of you have seen this and you think it's extremely confusing, so I'll break it down for you. The first component are the direct fees and costs that come from the card brands themselves: Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express. They set the standard costs. So whether it's Fat Merchant or Chase Payment Tech or Square or Bank of America, all of our costs to run your payment transactions as a merchant are exactly the same. But all merchant companies charge variable percentage on top of each and every single transaction over cost. In addition, they charge a whole bunch of ancillary fees, statement fees, PCI compliance fees, IRS fees, you name it, we've seen it. And what Fat Merchant has done is given merchants access to the direct cost for processing. So now, whether a merchant does $1 in processing or they do $5 million in processing, we're the only provider in the nation that never profits from their success. So our merchants, on average, save 40% by going direct. Well, as most of you know, cost isn't the only unique value proposition for Fat Merchant, because we do offer significant savings. Our unique value proposition is on the technology that we provide to actually help business owners increase their bottom line and grow their revenues. We focus a lot on the user experience. Even signing up for a merchant service provider is daunting. We've completely streamlined the process. Now you can go online, as easy as 1, 2, 3, sign up, be approved, and be processing the exact same day, which is something that hasn't been around in the industry. In addition, we really pride ourselves on service. And we pride ourselves in saying that we want to provide our merchants the best damn service. And that's part of our vision for Fat Merchant. Again, as I mentioned, I'm here today with our leadership team, which is comprised of myself and my background. I was a University of Florida graduate with a degree in finance and a minor in leadership. I worked for a large tobacco company in sales and marketing and was in payment processing for the last 4 years in the trenches of from merchant sales all the way up to account and national accounts. Then we have Sal Ramatula, who is our co-founder and chief operating officer for Fat Merchant. He comes from professional services and has clients that he's helped scale and grow, including Tesla and Salesforce.com. Jacques Fu, who is our chief technical officer, holds all the technology experience for Fat Merchant. He has over 10 years of experience in payment technology as well as e-commerce healthcare technology as well. Lindsay Lang, who is our Rollins graduate, was my first hire for Fat Merchant. She has a background in PR, communications, and was a graduate in 2014. But aside from just our leadership team, our advisory team that stands behind us for each and every decision is also something noteworthy. We have here in the audience today Martin Sitter, who's wearing orange chucks for us today. Martin, he sold his previous company for over $500 million to Motorola. Some of you may know Greg Pollock, who recently exited Code School for over $37 million.
Thank you. So let's take a better look at our business model. Fat Merchant is subscription-based, so our customers pay us a monthly membership to get that unlimited access to the direct cost of payment processing. We have 3 different plans that you can see here, and there's different equipment and software offered with each of the plans, free and included. So depending on how the business wants to process and how many transactions that they do run, they're able to pick which plan best suits their business needs. You see here the monthly membership starts as low as $29 a month. And that's $29 a month, 25 cents per transaction, $79 a month, 15 cents per transaction, and $99 a month, 8 cents per transaction. And since we don't have any markups and we don't nickel and dime them with ancillary fees, the monthly membership and the transaction fee are the only 2 charges from Fat Merchant. And since any business that accepts credit cards is required to have a merchant processor, we're able to be pretty ubiquitous across different industry types. So whether it's retail or salons or service and B2B, and healthcare as well, doctors and dentists and veterinarians' offices, we consistently see 30 to 40% in savings off of their processing because we're taking them direct to the credit card companies. And beyond price and cost and savings, there are plenty of other value adds associated with merchant services. You see here some examples. So next day funding, no contract, full service, free equipment, online reporting tools. You'll also see here 3 of who we consider to be our main competitors. There's Square, competing in the mobile payment space, banks with traditional merchant services, and then other independent sales organizations as well. Fat Merchant is the only provider that offers all of these as standard features with each of our memberships for our customers.
So, if we were going to build our business solely on pricing model, then we know it could be a race to zero. And that's why it's all about the product. Currently today, we service a variety of customers, whether it's mobile readers, point of sale systems, online shopping carts for e-commerce businesses. But our vision is to address the 50% of our customer base that are virtual terminal users, and they're just not happy with any of the options that they currently have today. And so that's why we're going to be launching in April our own Fat Merchant branded virtual terminal. Now, this is not your mother's POS, and by that I don't mean point of sale. This is something new that is going to be simple, but a powerful payment platform. And you'll be able to take credit card, you'll be able to take ACH, but you're also going to be able to manage your recurring business. You're also going to be able to send invoices to your customers so that they can take payments online. And of course, there's going to be a modern RESTful API, which is going to be an absolute pleasure to integrate with. Now, those are all of the basics, but we want to move beyond the basics, right? So one of our focuses is the dashboard. We want to redefine that experience, remove all of the friction away from the landing page so that you can see at a glance the health of your business, you can see all of the immediate action items that you need to take, and then you can quickly launch into, using our OmniSearch tool, any record or screen within the entire system. So we want to be different, but in order to be different, we have to be better. And to do that, we need to scrutinize everything about the status quo. That includes things like extra hardware. Who wants to carry around or remember to carry around a mobile reader, right? So we will have a photo capture utility that will allow you to take credit card payments wherever you are because your mobile phone is going to be wherever you are. For rental companies, they currently don't have today a virtual option for pre-authorization deposits, which leaves them at a greater liability. So my dad, he always told me, you do it right or you don't do it at all. And that's the philosophy we're really going to take with our product roadmap. And so beginning in April, when we launch our product, throughout the summer, we're going to be taking feedback, iterating very quickly on that so we can scale the business. And then by the fall, we'll have identified and implemented all of those features which will differentiate us from the competition so we can hit our 2015 goals.
And while we're working on our technology and building out our IP, we haven't forgotten about sales and customer acquisition. Currently, we have over 200 customers. You might recognize some national brands including Meineke, Knights Inn, Chevron, and locally here, Party Flavors Custom Cakes, several Wolfgang Bakery locations. And are any of you familiar with the restaurant Hawkers over on Mills? Yeah, I know, it's awesome. We were able to save them over $20,000 a year on their payment processing. In addition to our customers, we also have had some really great press and exposure. Locally here with the OBJ and Orlando Sentinel, and then nationally as well with features in Forbes and TechCrunch and Fast Company, who later did a year-end review and ranked Fat Merchant at the #3 spot for the top 10 business lessons learned in 2014, immediately following Netflix and Spotify. Oh, thank you. We have a robust go-to-market strategy composed of 5 different main elements. The first is inbound marketing. So that's our Google AdWords, our SEO, our retargeting, as well as social media and blog contents. Press, which accounts for about 40% of our customer base. A referral campaign where we empower and incentivize our customers to refer other businesses our way. And then also we have strategic partnerships and channel partners, the most recent of which is Verizon.
So a lot of things we talked about really on marketing, technology, things that are going to get us there and continue to help us scale. But the question is, what have we done today? And today we're at $16,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Once again, monthly recurring revenue with over 200 plus clients at an 87% margin and growing compoundly 25% month over month. And been able to keep our cost of acquisition down to a measly $300 while keeping our lifetime value of clients just based on industry standards at $2,800 and bringing in 60% of our clients just based on inbound leads. So what are we doing with Fat Merchant? What's our vision? And you know, in April, we came to fruition with Visa MasterCard registration, which isn't an easy task. Brought the product to market, as mentioned, got to 200 customers. And our goal is really to get to 8,000 members by 2017 and really grow our Fat family. What that means, currently, based on a trajectory, we're at $1 million annual run rate for reoccurring revenue by this December. Once again, current trajectory for $1 million annual run rate by this December. And based on trajectories at $8 million annual run rate just 3 years from now with our 8,000 memberships that we're referring to. So we're extremely glad to be here today. And you know, being a part of this competition is extremely exciting. And the funds coming from here are really focused on 3 key areas. And that'd be growing and scaling our team from optimization, product development, as Jacques alluded to, and then really sales and marketing. With that, our bottom line
is making your bottom line bigger.
You put a strong emphasis on cost at the beginning of the presentation, being the low-cost provider, but I didn't hear an explanation of how you can execute as a low-cost provider when your competition has to charge more.
Absolutely, that's a great question. So as I mentioned earlier on, there's 3 components of the merchant bill. And as I mentioned as well, is that we all have the same cost for processing as our competitors do. So when we register with Visa MasterCard, they set what's called interchange. They're the ones that control the card cost fees. And think about it like this crazy matrix. It's a little confusing, but every industry type, so whether you're a restaurant or a B2B service, the type of cards that come in through your business, you swipe the card, it goes through the matrix, and it spits out a number. There's a cost associated with every card that's in your wallet today, whether it's a rewards card or a debit card, etc. But again, all our cost is exactly the same. Everybody else in the industry, the way that it's been done for the last 20 years, is they do that the basis point markup on the transaction. So there's 2 ways. Either when you go to a bank or you're started for merchant processing, you get cost plus basis points. So you get 35 basis points or 90 basis points, and you're on a good rate because you're on interchange pass-through. But that basis points is on your overall volume. So if you're on 90 basis points and you're doing $100,000 in volume, that's $900 that merchant provider is profiting on your business. And so that's how we're able to differentiate, is because we completely remove, we're the first 0 basis point provider. So we've already cut to the front and said we don't want to charge variable profitability on the business. We'd want to do a subscription-based style model and do a membership where you pay us a membership fee and you can process as much volume as you want, and we won't earn that basis point or that tiered markup on your business.
But to Richard's point, you're charging a fee. You do have a markup because you're doing a per transaction fee, right? That's how you make money. You got to make money somewhere.
We actually make 90% of our revenue on the subscription base. And on the transactional end, there's actually costs associated that even all the banks, they also charge the transaction fees. And ours are actually nominal compared to the banks as well. So it's a software fee.
Right. So I think Richard's question, and I have the same question. Hopefully I'm not processing this the wrong way, Richard, is everybody else in this business charges a base amount, and you can do it on per transaction or subscription or whatever, and they have a cost of acquiring customers and they have a cost to run their business, and they do it a particular way to make a certain amount of margin. If you are telling me that you are going to charge people a lot less, you have to run your business remarkably more efficiently than they do, or you can make a lot less money than they do. There's only one of those two things.
Yeah, absolutely. So an average customer, the same way it works is, as we mentioned, is variable profitability. If you make $1 million for a restaurant, whatever it may be, you transact, then, let's just say it's 1%, they make that 1% on it. Us removing that, we make a much lower margin, as we mentioned. Not on that piece, we make it directly on the membership fee. And you're right, the idea is to scale from members, and from an operational standpoint, that's exactly what we focused on. The traditional marketplace says resellers, pay your commission, sales folks. We don't focus on that. What we focus on is really building out from an internet base, as I mentioned, 60% of ours inbound leads. And we focus on bringing in clients from a low cost of acquisition, not splitting a revenue share within them, having that membership at a low cost so we can continuously grind based on that. And the whole point is scalability. Most folks and resellers have 100, 200 based on their total book of business. And our goal is to really build out that membership and be able to battle that exact piece that you mentioned.
Yeah, but Sal, you're not the first guy that's come up with the idea, right? I mean, a lot of people will look at the internet and say, a lot of people are going to look at the internet and say, hey, I can do the same thing. And so the concern, I guess I jump on the same bandwagon that Jason and Richard were on. What really is, I mean, I hear you saying it's a membership fee that really separates you from everybody else, but some reason I just don't get your cost, your acquisition cost of customers when you're I know you say you'd like to get it from the internet, and I guess people are going to come to you because you hope they're going to pick you one way or another. I just don't sense that's a good strategy. Go ahead, Jock, you want to jump on?
Yeah, I just want to say that we're very focused on price here, and that isn't the only strategy, right? The other strategy is product, and that's part of how we execute.
Yeah, but you're not in the product business yet. I mean, right now you're only...
Right, but we don't have that infrastructure, all of the middlemen, that's where a lot of that margin goes into, right? And so we don't have to pay those people because we're going direct to the businesses.
And one of the things, so we work over the back end Vantiv, and we went through a DocuSign process. Many of you guys are familiar with DocuSign, to streamline our entire operation standpoint. So you can actually go online to fatmerchant.com, sign. I'll give you a month of membership if you refer this event. But you can actually sign up directly through there without any human interaction. And we're actually the first people within Vantiv, our back-end processor, that actually had to go through an entire legal process because they've never done it. People within the industry have been resistant to change, having tons of headcount to be able to process these things, legal, et cetera, and being able to help streamline that process.
Inefficiencies.
So what happens with Vantiv? What's your relationship with Vantiv that keeps you focused, well, that keeps your price focused where it is? They hiccup tomorrow, what does that do to the Fat Merchant?
Well, Vantiv is our back-end payment processor, so any ISO has to get registered with a sponsor bank, so that whether it be First Data or Vantiv. It's a big feat to get through that process. They love Fat Merchant. They love what we're doing. It's a very unique concept. And Richard, like you say, it's not just about price, but we do have proof of concept. There are 200 customers right now that we have that are paying us money. It's not just about the monthly membership. It's about transparency. It's also about the brand value and that experience that we create of the seamlessness, the easiness. They call, there's a voice to the phone. There's also that to it as well.
You're right. I get why the customers like you. I appreciate all that, and you've earned that. But to where Jason and Richard were before, can you sustain that to make a profit?
Absolutely. We're growing 25%. We're growing 25%.
Yeah, you're growing your revenue 25%. Are you growing in margin?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. 87% margins for us. I mean, our costs, we don't provide equipment directly. We don't have costs or anything. It's pure marketing dollars. I mean, for us, once you sign up, it's just like a $99 check per customer every single month that cash in. Only thing for us is operationally making sure we can service them. There's no other, component of that, of providing terminals, providing peace. All those things are all gone out the window. We're not trying to buy businesses, book of businesses. That's not what we're focused on. We don't have reseller commissions. We're focused on building our own technology out in-house to help supplement that, and focused on bringing that membership fee directly by growing our membership base and really becoming, a leader within that organization.
I may have heard you wrong, but I thought you mentioned that you underwrite the hardware for the customer, and that's obviously amortized over time. And so the key piece of the economic model is underwriting that hardware and then also acquiring a customer at the rate that you've laid out there. So can you comment on both of those in terms of break even? You're obviously making assumptions based on churn and lifetime value. So how do you figure that out?
Yeah, absolutely. Lifetime value standard in the industry is about a 3-year. We actually don't lock any of our customers into a contract because, quite frankly, if we're not doing our jobs, they should be free to go. So traditionally, lifetime value, again, is around that 3-year mark, which our average customer brings us in about $80 a month in our revenue. So we've calculated our lifetime value to be around $2,800. However, we are very strongly, sure that our lifetime value will well exceed that, because even though you talk about price and things like that, no other competitor is going to come on the door and say, "Hey, we're going to, let me see your merchant statement. I can save you money," because that's exactly how the insurance industry was. And what happened? Well, quite frankly, Esurance came about. It went online, and you go online, you sign up, and you get a quote, and you sign up today. And you're not going to change your insurance once you kind of have it and you're satisfied with your provider. And so that's how we've calculated lifetime value on a conservative end with a 3-year standard industry contract. Our cost per acquisition right now is ranging around the 300 mark, and once we continue to grow and scale, that's going to continue to go down because we've already invested our dollars, within certain channels that are going to continually provide. Technology is huge in our distribution channel. So Jacques is actually, we have our API for Fat Merchant, which currently integrates into, I don't know, many of you are familiar with CrossFit gyms. So they have a CRM system that they have in place for every time a CrossFit gym opens, that business owner buys that CRM system. Well, Fat Merchant API is directly integrated into that software, so that every time a CrossFit gym opens, we get a new member. And that product is already ingrained within that. There's other companies that we've already integrated our API with. So the distribution channels are endless.
So you mentioned, I believe, you have 200 customers right now, and you said by the end of this year you're going to be at $1 million run rate. Mm-hmm. Then you mentioned that by end of year 3 you're going to be at $8 million run rate with how many customers?
With around 8,000 customers.
All right, so please do the math for me on that, because that doesn't make sense.
It does make, well, here's how we have calculated you want to
Sure.
Take the runway one?
Yeah, so we looked at the lifetime value based on subscription revenue, transactional, and revenue as well. So there's different components than just grabbing that $80 fee as well. As you alluded to early on, there is still a minimal transactional level. So we're making assumptions based on actual annual volume of businesses, growth of businesses, type of verticals. Happy to share the pro forma with you after this as well and go in more detail within that. But that's how we came up with that exact $8 million run rate to getting there.
One more quick question.
Well,
Yeah.
I would, one last question. How much money are you guys looking to raise, and for what percent of the company, and what's the exit strategy for investors?
Absolutely.
I'm going to just finish up his question really quick. The $8 million run rate, it goes up where our revenue or profitability goes down. Also, our expenses go up at year 3 with headcount, et cetera. As Sal mentioned, we do not have an outside sales force.
Well, then you need to look at that, because then that's going directly to what Richard and they were talking about, because right now you're at a $5,000 a year per customer. In year 3, you're at $1,000 per year per customer. So, I mean, if you're heading in that direction, it doesn't scale. So, I mean, you need to look at those numbers.
Absolutely.
Currently, right now, Richard, we're seeking a $500,000 investment, of which we've already have $125,000 subscribed. We're in the midst of our seed round, and this is for a $3 million pre-money valuation, and that's what we are currently seeking today.
Thank you.
The last thing we have the pleasure of doing tonight is hearing from Richard Daley, our keynote speaker. And I am Pete McAlinden, the entrepreneur in residence here at Rollins College, for those of you that don't know me. And I have the privilege and honor of introducing Richard to you tonight. Richard is a serial entrepreneur, born and raised here in the state of Florida. He's a UF grad, and the companies that he has created and has successfully sold, and there are multiple companies, are all software-based analytic companies. As of last month, his latest exit was to Hitachi for a deal that was worth over $500 million. Yeah. And I have my little cheat sheet here, and I pointed this out to Richard as I was talking to him before this. The folks that I know that know Richard, first and foremost, know him as a great water skier. And the last thing on his list, it says skills and stuff, UF alumni and everything, and it says water skier. So I hope you'll tell us a little bit about your water skiing experience and building your companies here in Florida. So please help me in welcoming Richard Daley as our keynote speaker.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks. Got it turned on? Perfect. I'll save the water ski until the end to see how much time we've got left, because I'm trying to make up a little bit of time. But thank you for having me here tonight. I'm happy to go through and kind of share some of the experiences, primarily on this last startup. The other ones we can go through and hit some other time, all right, come back and speak at some of the classes and so forth here. So I'm going to start very quickly just by going through my background in maybe 60 to 120 seconds. First and foremost, there's a UF logo up there in the upper left-hand corner. Yeah. Born and raised a Gator. I was born here in Orlando. That's where all the water skiing comes from and so forth. My oldest two have gone through UF, waiting for my next two to get pushed through there as well. I started off as a programmer. So my background, my degree was in computer science. Started programming for the VA hospital. Went to IBM as a pre-sales guy. So basically a little bit of sales, a little bit of technical expertise. And then got out of IBM in about 5 years. My mentor back then, that was back when you started with companies, they told you, you're going to be here for life, right? This is back in the mid to late 80s, and my mentor said, you got to get out of here before 5 years, or otherwise you're going to be here for life, and I don't think that's what you really want. Went off and did some consulting companies, and that was great. Then I decided, consulting company, you can only scale as much as you have people, right? And your multiples in terms of creating value as a company just wasn't there. So that's when I went off and started the first company, which was called AppSource. Very quickly, business intelligence company. Probably what we got known for, and actually where our value was created, is that this is about the same time, quote, the internet was invented. And for those of you older folks, that's when Al Gore invented the internet. We basically took business intelligence and got it off of Windows and off of desktops and stuck it into a browser. Right, so these days it's kind of like, well, let's ho-hum. Back in those days, going through and saying, I don't have to install this software on all these individual machines was kind of a breakthrough, right? So that was the beginning of some of the internet activity. That's what we did. Hyperion Solutions bought us, stayed there for a couple of years, and helped run a couple of their divisions, and then it was time to go. So next thing up was a company called Keola, and this is a great concept. So hey, look, if we can get rid of having to deal with customers and just go directly to OEMs, right, and big software companies, take the customer out of it, right, because sometimes customers are a pain. And I say that somewhat facetiously. But the fact is if we can actually get out of that business and also go through and say, let's take the end users out of this, we want to go through and automate it. So that was all about complex event monitoring. We happened to do that one in 2001. That was a horrible time for the software industry, right? We started in February, the bubble burst in March. Obviously 9/11 happened 6 months later, horrible year. We were just very, very fortunate that we had some good technology and a good team and so forth, and a couple companies came after us and we ended up getting acquired by mid-size ERP, publicly held company, but called Lawson Software. Stayed there for a couple years and then it said, okay, now it's time to do something different. This one, I'm gonna take you through the journey. Pentaho was a lot different in that, okay, kind of been there, done that. We've done the startups. We've had these successful acquisitions. This is something we want to make a big impact on the market. We want to go through from beginning to end, right, the entire platform. We want to go worldwide. We want to disrupt the space. It was all the things that you can kind of go through and say, this is what I really want to get into. And we could afford to do it because of our prior exits. So what I'm going to do is kind of start very quickly with where we are today with Pentaho, and then we'll spend 20 minutes kind of going through the journey. Right, all of the good, the bad, the ugly, right? Everything's got its good sides and bad sides. So I thought I'd walk through that just to share some of those experiences. I won't read everything up here, and some of the font's too small to see. We're a big data analytics company. Right, so big data has really taken off over the last 4 or 5 years, not just as marketing hype, but actually traction and commercialization. Right, and I'll share figures in terms of what we've done there. That's not how we started, right? So I'm going to take you through the story of how we kind of morphed into this environment, but this is really what's created our value. Right? We started off, we still are a commercial open source company. Right, so we chose that as our development distribution model. So analytics, open source, big data, all these things are kind of colliding all at the right time, right? And I saw some of the pitches, right? Even with the Fat Merchant, you guys are starting to collect data. The wearables, right? Even with the little lights on the shoes and so forth, all of this is coming in real-time environments using big data technology and analytics like this in real time, and also using predictive algorithms and machine learning in order to make sense of this and provide value for our customers. So it's a long way from where we started 10 years ago. And that's what we'll kind of walk through the journey. Here's a nice architecture diagram. I talked about what we want to do, everything from beginning to end. So you start at the left side, and that says, how do you access data and integrate it and blend it and start to add value to it, right? And once you have it there, how do I report against it? How do I analyze, visualize some of those things? And most importantly is the far right, right? That's more of the holy grail. We've been talking about AI for 20 some odd years, maybe 25 years, right? AI in the old days got a really bad name. It's starting to come back around now, and this is really the gold in terms of big data, right? You cannot sit there and manually, analyze and slice and dice a couple petabytes of data. You have to have that stuff in an automated fashion happening in real time. So these are a bunch of different data sources down at the bottom, right? The big thing here is that this is a world that's gone beyond just relational databases and structured. It's all unstructured data, right? It comes in many different flavors, and you have to be able to handle all those things. This is real simple, right? In terms of, this is a way that people can do big data on the left. You can sit there and code and Scala and Clojure and all kind of Python, whatever it is. You can code until the sun comes up, or you can go through and use visual development environments. That's what we provide. So you can go through and put together data-driven, big data analytical applications in a visual design environment, right? In about 1/10 of the time and about 20% of the cost of what it takes to do it traditionally. So that's what we do. If I go through here, this is what I always talk about with our prospects or investors, whoever it might be. Right? There's two ways to go through and make money. You're either solving somebody's pain points, right, or you're providing them with some way to gain, right? So pain or gain. So we go through and do both those things. In terms of pain points are things like cost with data warehousing. People don't want to pay Informatica, Oracle, IBM, SAP anymore, right? Those are big proprietary licensing fees. So we can go through and give them a much better, especially commercial open source and things like Hadoop, scalable affordability, right? In the old days, you had to buy Netezas or Teradata's, big, expensive proprietary hardware and software. So that's pain point. The other things up there, if you want to do fraud detection, or I want to do recommendation engines, I want to pop up ads, right, at the right time. I forget which pitch it was, but in terms of, even from a retailing standpoint, I want to be able to target specific ads, very personalized at the right time, right, in order to drive revenue. I want to go through and be able to predict machine failure, right? So Cisco's and NetApp's, all those folks are our clients, right? They go through and all their machines phone home their performance statistics, right, on a daily basis, right? Sometimes a lot more frequently than that. So we can go through and mine that with algorithms to figure out, based on correlations, when is this machine going to fail, right? So we can predict ahead of time. We ship parts out to those customers so they can go through and fix their machines before they actually break. So that's customer satisfaction, it's revenue sources, it's good for their product design teams. You go through a whole checklist of what we do. So that's who we are and kind of where we are today and why we got bought and everything. So this is where we got started, right? This is the best thing about startups, right, is you start with an empty whiteboard. Having worked for IBM and worked for companies that have acquired us before, sometimes it gets frustrating, years after years you've had a bunch of clients, you have to maintain old code, you're very limited, right? You've got a box around you in terms of what you can do. Startups, this is the best thing you can ever wish for, in my opinion. There's all different types of people, but this is a kind of a startup entrepreneur group. So this is the best thing that you could possibly ask for. I'm going to walk us through this, and it's not going to be painful. I'm going to go through at a pretty good pace, and you'll be able to see down at the bottom in terms of kind of where we started. I try to put things into major categories, so that helps with the story and kind of helps you get little tidbits along the way. So 2004, October 8th, 2004 is when we got started. This is the same group of guys that have started the other two software companies with me. I often wonder in terms of who would follow us, who would invest us in a crazy bunch of people like this. The fact is that we love what we do. There's a lot of passion in it. You obviously have been doing this for a long, long time, so you get this kind of expertise. They talk about startups, working 7, 24. You don't realize that, right? Because if you love what you're doing, you don't realize the time that you're putting into it. So those key things. That's when we got started. I'm jumping around a little bit, but we started our funding in 2005. So we self-funded until September 17th of 2005 is when we got our A round. The fact is that we went out, we did prototyping, not just PowerPoints, but actual product and things like that. I started in terms of trying to raise some funds. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide, and we'll fly through others, because this is important for people who are trying to start companies. We went up to Boston. I should say myself and one of our board members flew up to Boston in March 2005. We met with 6, 7 different investors up there. People that we knew that were in our space and things like that. Most everybody in Boston, one of them said, yep, move up here tomorrow and we'll fund you, right? Get your team, move up here, go across the street, and that way we can keep an eye on you. You can come to CEO breakfast and things like that. There's not a lot of water skiing that goes on up in Boston. The other VCs that we met with, the other ones were all interested, but they said, look, we think that you're going too big, right? This whole platform thing is just too big. Focus in on just one item as your beachhead and then come back later and grab the things. Didn't want to do that. I already did that with the first 2 companies. They were more of niche plays. So said, okay, we're going to pack it up. One guy who I really respected who had funded JBoss, right? JBoss was a big open source company acquired by Red Hat back in 2005. He said, look, you guys are still kind of young. Until you grow up in terms of a community, your open source community, I'm not going to fund you, but what I recommend you do is go back and do this and that and blah, blah, blah. So it was good advice. The other thing he said is, look, whatever you do, if you go out to find investors, don't just get one investor, right? One investor is an owner, 2 investors, you got partners. So a couple little things that he had mentioned to me. So they went back, back to the drawing board, did some things, launched our website in May, went out to Sand Hill Road, right? Menlo Park, out in the valley, and went up and down Sand Hill. Same thing, saw about 8 different VCs. Everybody out there was, yep, we love the big picture and everything else. There's only 1 or 2 that worried about our address, right? That wasn't in like 5 or 6 zip codes out in the valley. The thing I like most about NEA, which was our original investor, I'm up there drawing this thing in terms of the architecture on a whiteboard, and one of their partners grabs a marker and goes up there and starts expanding on the vision. So East Coast in terms of Boston was a lot more conservative, scale back. West Coast, Wild Wild West. Within 4 days out there, we had 3 out of these 6, 7 investors coming back to us with offer letters. And for me, it was the first time I'd raised money. My first 2 companies were self-funded. So let me just keep an eye on time here for us. The interesting thing is I thought, well, this is just how it's supposed to work, right? You go out there, you spend 2 or 3 days, and people just start throwing money at you. Subsequently, I learned it wasn't quite that easy, right? It isn't always that easy, but we happen to be at a good space and intersection. So NEA said, look, we want to take the whole round. And I kind of went back into memory from what that guy, David Scott at Matrix, had said to me in Boston about don't just take one. So we said to NEA, look, we're going to take your offer, give me 60 days to get one of these other VCs to come in as a secondary partner. And that was Index Ventures up here in the middle of the screen. Eventually, over a couple of rounds of financing, again back in 2008 and 2010, we brought on Benchmark and one other. So it was, overall, we raised we raised exactly $60 million. Over about a 6 or 7 year period. That was enough to get us where we needed to be, because we're competing against, you remember all those guys I mentioned, IBM and Oracle and SAP and Teradata. We're competing against big guys. So if you want to go out and you want to win, a lot of times you're going to have to go through there and sell some equity. One other thing, and I'll jump on to the next slide, I had learned early on from one of our board members, wasn't an investor, but was an outside board member, said there's 2 things you can sell, right? You can sell equity, stock if you will, and you can sell product. eventually one of them runs out. So you just got to kind of keep your eye on that, right, as you go through and you keep, raising more rounds. As long as you can get your valuation up, right, and you continue to follow that valuation cycle, you're going to be in good shape. If you get caught in a situation in a downturn where all of a sudden your valuation, you're going to start to get squeezed out, right? So there's just some situations you need to be very aware of, right? But just the faster you can sell product, the better, right? And I'm stating the obvious there. Okay, so then let's move on. 2006, I'll go through this quick. We were a very complicated, architecture. Right? There's a lot of moving pieces. Even though we were analytics, really everything we did in the early days was in the background, right, on the server side. All of the crunching and everything else. It wasn't the beautiful UI on the front. It was everything in the back. So we spent, and that's when we raised the money. We knew we had to spend a lot of years going through and building up all the hard stuff versus just coming out with the sex and sizzle, right, which is pretty easy to do, but it never scales over time. And there's a lot of people that go through and do that. So we did that through building and buying and borrowing, right? So you can obviously, borrow from open source. It's out there and freely available. We can build our own stuff by hiring a bunch of engineers here in Orlando. And then this list up here of Mondrian, JFree, Kettle, and Weka, those are open source projects that we acquired throughout 2005 and 2006. So, why do you acquire an open source project? It's free. Well, you want to go through and be able to control its destiny, its roadmap. You want to hire the architects, the lead contributors. And all of a sudden, I've got a reporting engine. I've got a data integration engine. I've got an OLAP engine. I've got all kinds of things overnight, and I've got all the lead architects with me. Right? So that's what we did to go through and put these things together pretty quickly. Over the next year or two, we're monetizing some of the background, but we're really trying to go through there and build up these communities. And why do you want to build up a community? Because they help. They contribute some code, but they also help tremendously in QA and testing, right? All these different test environments, it is almost impossible to do it at a company our size back in those days, which 2007, we were probably 40 guys and a dog or something. But using open source as a dev and distribution model was great for us. 2008, I'm just hitting the highlights here. Everything's going along just great, right? Until all of a sudden, you're watching CNN or CNBC and there's Lehman Brothers. Everybody walking out the door with their boxes packed. So the whole subprime, the whole market collapsed. Obviously, real estate and everything else. Pretty well every VC-backed company got an email within a week or so that was created by Sequoia, and the very front of it, the very first slide was a headstone that said "Rest in peace." Basically, it was the beginning of the end kind of a thing, and they immediately, everybody at Sequoia as well as then the rest of the valley kind of took the lead. It was a 20% head cut, right? So we went from, I think we were around 100. By the time we hit that point, we went back to 75. We did 25% head cut within 2 weeks, right, of that whole thing just crashing. So it was, sometimes you're going to have to go back there and, you're going to have to make some sacrifices for the better, right, of the long run. And these are tough decisions to make, but you can't stall. You just got to do it immediately and go from there. So, you take a step back. A couple things that actually ended up being good about the recession. It's hard to say that there's anything that good that comes out of it, but for us, we're the little disruptive guys, right, at a much lower price point than those big giants that I talked about. So when companies in 2009 actually started, kind of poking their heads back up out of the cubicles and saying, well, I still have to run my company, I still need to buy business intelligence and analytics, they're going to look for lower cost alternatives. Right? And now they can also justify to management, I'm going to buy something that's commercial open source, and sure, 2 years ago that might have been a risky move, but now we got to take that risk, right? We're going to go through and we're going to utilize this software, we'll start it in a small project and we'll grow it and scale it if it works. So that was good for us. The other thing that actually kind of ended up being good for us is one of our competitors, and this is the way things work in open source, they were a competitor, but they built their product on top of our OLAP engine. They built this beautiful front end, right, that sex and sizzle that we were lacking. They went under, right? June of 2009, they went bankrupt. So we got in touch with the bankruptcy attorney and for pennies on the dollar bought that beautiful front end and put it into what we called our enterprise edition. That started our monetization engine, right? Really got it started and started fast. Right, so a couple of those events, again, a recession happening, it was the beginning for us in terms of some good revenue. This is a slide I love to show to people out in the Valley, right? Because they're like, okay, how did you guys get into big data and everything else? Well, we're sitting around at Sonny's. My office is down by the airport. We're over at Sonny's at a happy hour. They actually have cocktails at Sonny's down there. And we're sitting around having a happy hour, and this is with one of our clients from Mozilla. And the guy says to me, hey, could you integrate your data integration product with Hadoop? And this is November of 2009, even though I talk about it in 10. November 2009. What the hell is Hadoop, right? I had no idea, right? At that point in time, only a handful of companies on the planet were using it, right? Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, Yahoo, and I'm sure I'm missing one or two others, but that was about it. Open source project. It was all about distributed data processing. And now it was time to go through and figure out, hey, how can we get this out into the market and commercialize it? About a year later, Cloudera was born, right, in terms of they're a big distributor of Hadoop. But nonetheless, this was a way to go through and completely disrupt the data management space. Right? So the Teradatas, the Oracles, all these folks in terms of people who charged a lot of money to store data. Now data is getting out of control, right? This is the point where it's sensor data, right? Wearables weren't around back in 2010, but a lot of sensor data, a lot of multimedia data, images, things like that needed to be parsed and searched and mined. What was happening is people couldn't go through and analyze the amount of data that they needed to. They could only store so much. For gaming companies, they could only store 2 or 3 days worth, right, of gaming data to go through there and mine it and figure out what the patterns were. They had to keep buying boxes from Netezza and other places. This allowed them to go through and do things very affordably. But make no mistake about it, Hadoop back in those days, and even somewhat now, is very, very technical. It's heavy-duty infrastructure and hard to use. That's great news as far as we were concerned, because we could take our product, stick it on top of Hadoop, and make it consumable, right, by the average human. That's really what we kind of saw as, well, there's a huge weakness, right? Hadoop is tough and it's faulty, and you got to have a really specialized skill set. You got to be one of these guys like a Facebook or a Google. That's where we stepped in. That's when we started saying, we're putting all of our bets. We got our money stream going now, right, with this other product, this Enterprise Edition product. Let's let that money stream keep going, but start putting our future bets all around big data and Hadoop. That's what we did. So next thing, we start getting into late 2011, and this is where, again, you got to start making these decisions about where you want to place your bets, where you want to spend your time in these things. 2009, I'll go back here real quick. The other thing that we did way back in 2009, the recession, we had a bunch of cash from our VCs. The San Francisco real estate market crashed. What better time to go through and get a 5-year lease on real estate in downtown San Francisco? So that was a great thing for us. But what happened is I'm on planes back and forth, right? So we opened up our office in 2009. Even prior to that, I was out there at least once or twice a month. So now it's time to go through and say, let's get some seasoned execs, right? People who've been there, done that. We can have all of our engineering, our services, support, GA, all these fun things, IT back here. Let's start build up some sales and marketing out in the Valley, right? And biz dev. So we can be, if you will, on both coasts. It's just a necessity right now. As much as we'd like to go through and say Orlando has it all, we don't have it all yet, right? We're slowly getting there. But this is we went through and beefed out our team. And we really did this over 2010, 11, and 12, but I threw it all up here one year. So next thing, we continue to go through and make this stuff easier and easier on top of big data. So we go through and start doing these things called InstaView. And what does that really mean? It just means that we can go through and broaden our audience. We can make this available to a much larger audience. That says that we can increase our revenue base. Simple enough. Next thing we go through and do, pretty straightforward, is 2013. We acquired one of our partners who did a lot of UI work for us. Right? That was pretty a good move for us. They go through right now, and on our larger implementations and larger enterprise customers, they'll do at least 50% of the work in terms of helping them build out their apps and their UIs. Right? So plain and simple. These guys are based out of Portugal, so you'll see that we're kind of all over in terms of some of our development environments, and again, that's more of an open source type of a mentality. I've got 3 or 4 more slides and we'll wrap up. We went from 2010, right, cocktails or whatever at Sonny's Barbecue, which is 0% revenue was big data. By the time we got out of last year, 70% of all of our revenues coming in were out of big data. That's how fast this market has taken off and growing, and that's how fast, again, as a company, we morphed and we're very agile in terms of what we saw was going on in the marketplace and what really was the biggest pain and gain point for us to go through and address. So next thing, we were working on this deal. Actually, Hitachi became an OEM partner, a partner of ours about a year ago, maybe 15 months. And so through that partnership, it became clearer and clearer that, Hitachi and even Hitachi Data Systems, they're a hardware company, right? They're trying to get into the software business, and they figured, we can either try to do this, we can plant a seed and try to grow it, or we can go out and get somebody who already knows what they're doing in this space. These guys all want to do about the Internet of Things, all about big data. This has got nothing to do with just plain old simple BI. So it's very, very strategic for Hitachi as a company. You'll see the same thing coming from GE, right? GE is investing heavily into the Internet of Things, and these guys are big, big competitors. I'll wrap up here by talking about just the perfect storm kind of scenario in that you've got analytics, open source, and big data all coming together at the same time. So people always ask about it. Look, we didn't sit down in 2004 and say, well, let's go out and be a big data company and then get into Hadoop and all those things. So what you learn is that, as time goes by, you take what's given to you, the recession, big data coming along, and you make the best of it. Make decisions and act as fast as you can. I think that's it. So those are the key things there. I think we've got 5 minutes for Q&A if there's any questions.
Questions?
Yep. Yes.
Apparently this is my
Richard, Martin Suter. First of all, congratulations on the exit. Ex-Cognos guy, so I've been around, that was a long time ago. Interesting to see the 10-year horizon from the time you took your first funding to the exit, and I'm wondering whether you're under any pressure from your early investors for liquidity.
That's a great question. So the other thing in terms of picking, if you can pick your VCs, or usually if you've got a good concept, you can go out and find money. It's much better to go through and kind of find the VCs that are going to be adding value to your endeavor, your journey. Some of that value is the fact that they've got patience, that they believe. Like NEA's whole motto is about, believing in the entrepreneur, right? And there to support them. So, yeah, we were very fortunate that we had a bunch of tier one players that weren't overly anxious to try to cash out. There was about a 2 to 3 year, I would say, road bump, pothole, whatever, because of the recession. But these guys were okay about it. We all sat down in early 2011 and said, okay, do we want to try to go out and sell the company? Or we want to try to go big, right, and go for a public offering, but it's going to take us another 3 to 4 years, right, minimal to get to that point. And I think everybody started seeing the value in the big data proposition. So it's a great question, but they were very patient. I have not yet had a taste of the bad side of the VC world, so we're lucky. Yes.
Thank you for coming. 2 quick questions. The $500 million exit, how was that number, I know it's a subject to negotiations, but how was it derived at? A multiple of revenue, multiple of EBITDA? And my other question is, other than Gators, do you hire Rollins business students, Rollins MBAs, or those kinds of people in general?
Yes.
I'm not looking for a job. And are we teaching them the things they need to be successful in a successful corporation like yours?
So, good question. On the first thing, we've yet to hit profitability, and that's kind of by design. Is every time we're getting ready to hit profitability, it's like, okay, do we do that, or we go through and just invest the money and continue to grow? We're near profitability, but it's not something that was important to us. It wasn't one of our metrics or our VCs. We had enough cash to take care of that. In terms of multiple on revenue, it was about a 10x. Right, so it was a very decent exit. Yeah. So in terms of, do we hire people other than UF? Yeah. We get a lot of, down here, frankly, and I was mentioning this during one of the breaks, is that we get a lot of engineers, from all the different schools here locally. What was encouraging as I sat in the back of the room tonight was to listen to some of these pitches, and that there's a lot of people besides engineers that seem to be popping up around here. So one of the things that I've always felt that we had a void in was more of product marketing, even some of the entrepreneurs. So I saw a lot of pitches and was very pleasantly surprised to sit back there and hear those things. Are we doing the right things? I'll be the first to say I'm probably guilty of not paying as much attention as I should to what's happening in the local community. That's probably because it's just running the business 24/7 and being on the West Coast all the time. Some of the things I'll be doing as the years go by is probably spending more time trying to help. But it certainly seems like the casual conversation that we've had, at least the investments are being made. I've had some conversations with guys up at UF as well, the incubator and some of the programs they're doing. Yeah, I think if we can start to get people, not only from an entrepreneur or startup program, but also from a tech, I'm not seeing yet a lot of Hadoop and Python and NoSQLs and Mongos and things like that in the educational environment, right? And data science, people are starting to come around to data science, right? In terms of, statistics and mathematics and those things. But right now, one of the hottest jobs out there is this data scientist, this mathematician. So what used to be the nerd, this isn't in my world, right? I don't live in the wearables and the sippers and cocktail things like that. But at least in my world, it's all about statisticians. And so if we can continue to provide more education around that and kind of meld that a little bit with business knowledge, I think that's what we need to arm our folks with. Yep.
Time for maybe one more question.
I really appreciate that you put your water ski in the ground as like kind of stakes and stayed in the area. Besides water skiing, what advice do you have to people with good ideas to stay in the area? Like, what is the incentive? Why stay here?
Why stay here? I think there's a couple things besides the abundance of lakes and temperature and so forth. The fact is that there is a growing talent pool here. And as I said, even eye-opener tonight on some more of that talent. I think from a retention standpoint, it's much, much higher here to be able to go through and recruit and retain than it is in the Valley or other places. The turnover out there is ridiculous. And that goes for all disciplines, whether it's engineering, sales, marketing, product marketing. It's a very significant, everybody's looking for the next big thing and they're willing to jump within 12 months. Back here, one of the good sides about not having, this big thriving tech community yet is that, with only so many companies, there's not that many places for people to jump around. So I think if you also provide a great work environment for them, they're not going to want to leave. So I think those are some of the things. I think if you look at what's happening with, Medical City out here, right, on the east side, southeast side of the community, that's bringing a lot of high-paid jobs. I think that's bringing a lot more talent into the environment that we've had before, because we've always been looked at as Mickey and Shamu, right? So we're starting to break that mold. I think the schools are getting, great reputations. Crummer, has always been held high up there. So I think there's a lot of good reasons why people should stay here. Cost of living is an obvious one in terms of the difference between here and the Valley. It's overly priced. It's very, very difficult for people to find a living out there unless you've hit it big with some startup. So, good question.
Go ahead. One quick question. Is there a downside to big data analytics?
Is there a downside to it?
Yes. I mean, there's
not that I've experienced.
To everything, and there's also a downside. And I'm wondering if let me give you an example. A number of years ago, when people were, I'm missing the term now, when they were just-in-time manufacturing.
Right.
You started to see shortages, and it affected the economy because people were tightening up the supply line to the point that they weren't ordering extra steel or extra this or extra that. It actually had a downside on the economy. And so I'm just wondering if there is a downside to the big data analytics. Is there something that could go askew that could lead you in the wrong direction?
No, so that's a great question. Yeah, like I said, joking aside, I haven't seen the downside yet. Let me give you the 60-second answer because I know we got to move, is that where we are with big data and Hadoop and some of these technologies is basically where we were when the browser first came out for the World Wide Web, right? So we are at a very early infant stage of big data. What this is all about, what software always been about, is automation. So now all we're going to be doing for the next 5 to 10 years is automating all these manual activities, right? So, how do I go through and do A/B testing to figure out what website design works better than the other? Well, you can do this stuff in a couple of hours, right? Or a day or two to figure out what results you're getting. So all we're trying to do is compress time, right? And make people much more efficient than they ever used to be. So, history repeats itself. All we're doing is automating things, at the end of the day. Not to make it sound very unglamorous, but that's it.
Richard, thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with fourth place. Our fourth place winner with a prize of $2,500 in the 2015 Venture Plan Challenge is Sandspur. Third place with a prize of $7,500 is Freedom Audio. Thanks, guys. We'll do one group shot at the end. Okay. Second place with a prize of $15,000 is Nighthawk Running. And the winner